Hello everyone, welcome to Art Without Due Diligence. Today we will be working on a portrait from photo reference. I'm working on DaVinci board, two-sided board. You can get it on Jerry's Artorama. It's pretty cost-effective. You can work on both sides. One side is a little too slick, but it's possible to work on both sides. And I'm using Vasari paints. The materials are in the description. I'm going to work on a photo of a model I worked with before. I just took a reference photo in my friend's studio. Interestingly, he looks very much like Rembrandt. I'll show you the reference. Could be his son even. So let's try to do something in the style of Rembrandt, of Old Masters, and because the light is appropriate here for that. And first I'm going to place my subject. I like to include the hand, and this is one of the most important steps, is placing your subject and making sure that you're happy with the relationship between filled space and empty space. And here he has a kind of shrugged shoulder pose. Not going to be too precise right now, but just kind of making sure that my composition is not going to be too close, for example, to the sides of the frame, so that I can get the hand, for example, and maybe I need to move it. Don't be afraid to erase and restate your placement, because this is, again, if you don't get this part right, the whole painting, you'll spend time and work on this painting, and it's not going to look good. So maybe I need to make the head smaller. And just so I don't cut too close to the sides, and I can still place the hand, which I like and I would like to include in my composition. And the light is coming from here, so this side is going to have much sharper edges versus this side, which is going to be blending with the background. And hair is part of the background. He has awesome hair, so that's part of the attraction. The shoulders coming higher because he's kind of shrugged forward. And there is a bit of a perspective. Also, working from a photo reference, you have to be careful about lens distortions. And this photo was taken not with cell phone, which is terrible for this, but was taken with the proper camera. But still, we have to worry about lens distortions. but there is perspective, and we need to pay attention to that. Also, sometimes depending on how close the subject is to the camera, the proportions can be distorted. Especially sometimes, the head will look either too large or too small. Still have to, because nobody is going to actually see your subject. In reality, they're going to see unless it's a commissioned portrait, they're only going to see your work. So sometimes people do have weird proportions, and it's worthwhile. If it's not a commissioned painting, it's worthwhile correcting for them, because otherwise people don't understand, why this person looked that way. Maybe they're too short, or maybe they're too tall, maybe their head is too large. Since it's your work, you can correct for more, I would say, expected proportions. Sometimes painters flatter their subjects, like John Senior Sargent. Some of his paintings, if you actually painted larger than slightly larger, as human size or slightly larger, and if you actually convert it to real proportions, then the person is like 8 feet tall, and he did it on purpose, obviously, to flatter his subject. But that's what it is. He's a commercial painter. He was painting famous people. They have big egos. And okay, so this part is his hair. Hair is part of the background, but it's a useful landmark for your proportions. And we can also, so he's looking kind of straight on. And nose is easiest to place at the beginning because it's a central feature, and also from the nose we know how the shadows organize themselves. And for example, I know here that we need to bring hair forward and start with simple, very simple geometric shapes. His eyes are positioned kind of this way. And it's useful to just indicate eye sockets first to get them correctly. Don't worry about small and this is classical chiaroscuro lighting is when we have this triangle on the cheek that's opposite the direction of the light, where the light is coming from. The eye is a sphere, so that's why this corner, inner corner, will have deeper shadows, and there will also be shadows on the outer corner, like so. So the shadow continues and continues on his shoulder. Okay, let's step back. Okay, let's continue. Placed our figure, and now I'm going to put in some background so I have something to work with. And while we're doing this, it's a little bit boring to watch. I'm going to talk a little bit about working from photo reference versus from live models, and I prefer to work from live because a variety of reasons. The most accurate representation of reality is the reality that you observe yourself. Now, for still lifes, it's much easier, obviously, because you can set up your own still life and it doesn't move. You don't have to pay it, like you have to hire a model and pay them. Well, I guess you can always do a self-portrait or convince a relative to pose for you. And but I still prefer to work with models in a studio where I go to my friend's studio. It's pretty far, it's about an hour drive from me, but I make the trip because of the models available. And but I also take reference photos to work on later, or perhaps use it as part of a larger composition I'm thinking of, just to have my own reference. Sometimes just to give me ideas. But the photo reference, you always have to be aware of the lens distortions, as I said, and it's a little bit harder to. The light doesn't always look good. The color, especially digital photography, basically calculates colors based on black and white acquisition, and so the colors are computer generated. They're not the true colors. Sometimes I actually work from, and I quite like that, I work from antique photographs because they're film based and much more accurate black and white, and then I invent colors myself, and that tends to work better because I'm not distracted by the computer generated color, which may or may not be accurate or interesting, or so try that approach and see if you like it. So for example, in this photo, in the reference photo, the background is purple, which I don't like. I'm going to make kind of murky, greenish, but fairly warm as far as green goes background, just to have something at this point. And I will also have to adjust the reflected light and everything else from the reference photo to correspond to this green versus purple. Also, while you're learning to paint and draw, it's absolutely a must to paint and draw from life, from reality. Otherwise, it's difficult to make these adjustments that I'm making, and for example, be aware of lens distortions and see where the lens distortions are, because if you haven't kind of learned the human form, it's extremely difficult to do from photos. Photos are very flat. The lens has only one eye. We have two eyes. We see in stereo. We see slightly around the corners because of this, and the lens does it. The lens flattens everything, and then of course there are different lenses. There are different focal lengths. There's just different types of settings for the photography, which have nothing to do with human vision. So for this reason, it's here's my lecture on why you should work from life, while I'm demonstrating how to work from a photo. And I'm going to just put some some placeholder. I don't know how much. Okay, welcome back. I'm going to continue with the studio light, so there's a shadow here because it's already pretty late in the day, and I can't use my window anymore. But since I'm working from a photo reference, it's okay to do it this way. Now that I've kind of created an underpainting, I'm going to work on the laying in shadow pattern for my form shadows, and I usually use burnt umber. You can use raw umber and cad red light and cad yellow light to create a warm, dark orange. And so the light is coming from here, and the shadow is perpendicular to the light. And we're going to make very simple, no detail yet, shadow pattern. Combine everything into one form. So, and not going to deal with the mouse too much right now. So one simple shadow form. Okay, and if I want to, I'll deal with that later. And I will add hair form just so that I have something. I'm not too distracted. So I'm going to use burnt umber and just add a little bit of burnt sienna. I still have a very thin paint layer. Actually, here I can do a darker. There's also a shadow pattern on the hair, although we shouldn't get too carried away with it, because the hair is part of the background and it's very simple. It should not have a lot of detail. Just indicating right now. And we can use same cad red light, cad yellow light combination to make it lighter. So the color of the hair is always in the highlights. It's always a much darker form, even blonde hair. Blonde hair is essentially a dark form with very light highlights. He has kind of reddish hair, which is cool. And right now all I'm doing is placing where it is. Not a lot of detail. And thinking where I can show some highlights. Can add ultramarine to the dark parts. Okay, and I'm thinking to block in some of the of his shirt. I'll need a bigger brush. It's useful to have that color so that we can then use it in his complexion, because it will be reflecting into it. Even if you don't see it, you know that it reflects. So it's kind of a light gray, blue gray. Shadow part, I am going to do just add burnt umber to ultramarine and less white, and just burnt umber to gray it. Almost the same value. I'm not too concerned about value variations and folds in there. Just indicating direction where I think it's going to go. Okay. And next is let's fill in the lid side of his face. And now it's the question of skin tone. How do we mix the skin tone? And for skin tone, it's always a yellow and a red and white. It's depending on the ethnicity and complexion. You have different reds and different yellows. And also the third and actually very important consideration is what gray are we going to use. So for his complexion, I'm going to take an earthier red, which is Venetian, and yellow ochre. So these are two earthy colors, and I'm going to mix them with white and just lay it in. And typically I'd like to start with the middle of the face and create one plane across the face. And here I'm starting to get more precise about the shape of the face. But be very simple at this point, extremely simple. One plane Here's our triangle. I'm indicating the landmarks that I will need. The middle of the face is the reddest part. So where the nose and the cheeks, they have a lot of blood vessels. And in the reference photo, oftentimes they're blown out as far as some part of exposure is too bright and some is too dark. So that's the reason why we prefer to work from live, because in the photos you don't see this. So when you don't see it, you need to put it in yourself. So I know that this part, even though it doesn't show in my photo, this part is redder. And so I'm going to add even cad red light to my Venetian to make it more pronounced. Then the forehead actually looks redder in my photo, but I know that it's not. It has more yellow, and I'm going to, but it has red in the middle part, and toward the eyebrows we have this triangle here that is typically has more color. I'm not going to deal with hair right now. I'm just but overall it's more yellow compared to the middle of the face. And above eyebrows we have, especially in men, the bone is coming forward. Here we also have light going to the cheekbone. And again, because the light is coming from here, this side is lighter. It's lighter here. Middle, and another part over the eyebrow protruding. Okay, and we can connect his hair. I'm using a little bit of gray from his short to connect with the hairline. Very soft. And looking where the corner of the eyebrow is. I'm trying to place it. This is a very important corner of the head. Head has corners. We have to look at everything as a geometric object. Okay, and then the lower part of the face, which I'm not going to complete yet, but I'm just going to place some color there. And I'm using again the gray from the t-shirt to grade. But I can also use this color. So there's a plane turning under his mouth, and that's where we're gonna put the gray. And there's a plane here, but the lighter part where the right under the nose we have the light hitting this part, the top of the mouth. And it connects with the cheek. Okay, so the head is an egg, and if you haven't seen the egg demo, you should look at the egg demo. But basically, we are painting the head as an egg with features, eyes and nose, and so forth. So, and we started working on the receding planes. So the planes that are in the light but are turning away from the light are going to have the greens and blues, and typically it's a good idea to take it from the background. So I'm going to mix again my background color, which was ultramarine, yellow ochre, burnt sienna. So I have it, and then simply add it to my skin tone color. And that will give me the color that I need in the areas that are light. They're not shadow, but they're turning under, so they don't have as much light in them. There's a little plane here. This. And we also have this turn. Okay. And we can put it here. Okay, and just to fill it in, let's put the neck. Neck is also part of the background because it's not the main element, and even though it's forward, because of the informational content, don't want attention on the neck. we call it part of the background. And even though it's lit up, it should be very simple. And can fill out this blocking the arm and the hand. Okay, that's my dog shaking herself. The hand is redder, especially toward the fingers, the ends of the fingers, and this usually has much more color. I'm putting simple placeholder here for now. Okay, continuing on with the hand, and all right. For now, just putting a placeholder. Not too much detail. Okay, and indicate the hand here, the other arm here, sorry. And okay, so now let's see if we want to think about where the darks are gonna be. And maybe that's not the darkest darks because over there, because regardless of what your photo shows, the darkest darks are going to be next to the lightest lights in the center of focus. So these other areas may be dark, but not that dark, because again, we don't copy photographs or even reality. We need to edit what we see to tell the most compelling story about our subject. All right, let's continue on the face, and I'm going to indicate the eye sockets, and I will use the background color mixed with my skin tone. Just to see where the major landmarks are. Not a lot of detail, and again, this is a small study, so just the size of the study won't allow me to do a lot of details, which is a good thing. So we have this little piece of light that hits his eyelid. We also have light right here. It goes there. We have light, important highlight. On the tip of the nose. We have just a bit of light hitting the nostril here. And you can see how little you need to do to show that it's a face. And remember that eye is a sphere, so we essentially paint it as a sphere. And there's also a darker part in the corner right here. Right here. The eyebrows can make them darker. Burnt umber, ultramarine. But eyebrow has a complex shape because it wraps around the forehead, and so the darkest part is right here at the corner, this important corner, and then it trails and blends because it's going away. So it needs to be lighter. There's usually a break right here in the eyebrow, and the light can hit it, and you can see it. Right here. Now toward the light, it picks up the light, gets lighter and softer, and right, and where this piece of light hits it, you have a little sharper edge. Okay. All right. So that's one eyebrow. The other one is lighter because it's exposed more to the light. Like so. It wraps around as well. The light starts on the cheekbone, starts right here. Comes up to here. We have this triangle. And actually there's a lot of triangular shapes on human faces. And there's a highlight right here. And these are just I mean, we can work on the portrait or anything as much as we want. Some portraits I do in one sitting, and they will look like this, loose and painterly, and isn't going to be a lot of paint on it. And some are more more defined, have more details. I can work on them for over several days, and then you will have more paint on it, and it will look brighter. And also from the point of view of aging, the oil paint over time becomes more transparent, especially lead. It starts already a little translucent, and so or a little translucent like the one I'm using right now. So this, if I leave the portrait like that and it dries, it will look nice, but over time it will become very transparent and might lose color. And so just if you think of something that's going to last a while, or has to last a while, then it's a good idea to do multiple layers of paint. It's important to work from the larger structures to the smaller structures. So we don't put detail in, or don't paint the eye, we paint the eye socket, and when we're satisfied with it, we'll add detail. But the overall structure needs to be correct first. That's my dog sneezing at me because she wants my attention. She goes like, "Human, what are you doing?" It's we start the eyes from very simple shapes just to make sure that the proportions are correct and they're looking in the same direction, and the distance is correct. and connect parts. We can add more light to this plane. And this plane. Actually, we didn't do this. The chin is rather in the middle. Okay, and here, this plane extends behind, like so, and in the front, eventually we'll build reflected light. So this is where the shape turns, just indicating the overall plane for the mouse. Okay, let's step back.